board. Okay, and let me go ahead and set this up. Okay. Move my chat box out of the way here. Okay, make sure. All right, so we're all set. Anyway, so this is Search Smart using library databases for your research. So I think you were both in the session yesterday, if I remember correctly, in the new student orientation.
Yes.
I'm Laura Rice.
Yes.
I'm the library director here at Saybrook. So it's myself, and then we have Kirsten Klinghammer is our part-time reference librarian. She works about 5 hours a week. She helps out with responding to reference questions. Mostly she helps out with student appointments. So when students want to meet to do a half-hour consultation or an hour consultation. So she's available for that as well. And her hours are a little bit flexible. I'm in the central time zone. Kirsten is in Pacific time zone. So I usually get the people on this central and eastern half of the country, and she usually gets the western half, but it could work out anyway. Anyway, so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about library databases and just introduce you to them, show you around, do a couple of sample searches. So this is what we're actually going to be talking about through the presentation. We're going to be talking about what a library database is, library databases versus Google, or more specifically Google Scholar, because they are different. Accessing and navigating library databases. We'll talk about some effective search strategies like using Boolean operators or using subject terms. How to evaluate your results. So it's one thing to find information in a database, but it's another thing to evaluate it and make sure that it meets your needs for your research. And then also managing your results. So if you have a great article, what do you do with it? And then we'll just briefly at the end touch on a couple of ethical considerations about using databases. So first of all, let's talk about what a library database is. So basically, it's an electronic catalog of published items. These items can be things like articles, journals, reference sources, ebooks, documents, primary sources like original artworks, media, data sets, anything that's a piece of information. And I like to think of a database as just a filing cabinet with a bunch of folders in it, and inside that, a bunch of articles or documents. That's a good way to think about a database. It's searchable. So, when you put something in a filing cabinet, you think about alphabetizing it. Maybe you put, something by months if you have files like receipts. So you want to be able to search later to find something that you put in there. It is either subscription-based or it can be open access. So we have a combination of databases in our library that we link to. We pay for a lot of them, but we also link to some open access. Open access is getting better and better. You still kind of have to be careful sometimes, and sometimes things seem like open access, but when you find out that they're not really open access, that you do actually have to have a subscription to open them up. But we do our best to keep all the metadata clean on anything coming from an open access database. The items that would be in a database will have citation information with them. So you're going to know who the author is, what the title is, the publisher, the publication date. A lot of times when you're out searching on the internet, you might not have access to this information. You have no idea when a website was created unless they provide that information for you. In a database, you're going to have that information, so you can put a citation together. And then databases will either be multidisciplinary. They can also be subject specific. So we have some that are just psychology or just health, but other ones cover a wide variety of subject areas. They can also be format specific. So you could have you could have just streaming video databases or just databases with ebooks in them, like our ebook central database. Sorry if you hear my dog barking in the background. I have my door closed, but I don't know, when he hears somebody come, he responds. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Google, because I know that I I'm even an advocate of setting up, I mentioned this yesterday in the new student orientation. I'm an advocate of setting up your Google Scholar to sync with our library, but using just Google Scholar is not going to get you the articles that you need. So here, I just did this little comparison here between library databases and if you're just using Google or Google Scholar. So access to peer-reviewed literature. You know that you're going to get that in the library databases. We subscribe to several scholarly databases that are all containing peer-reviewed journals. Not all of them are, but a good majority of them are peer-reviewed. With Google Scholar, you may be seeing that, but you can't really filter for it. And you don't know until you actually go into the article. And then you have to go and you have to look up to see if the journal is peer-reviewed. So you may be able to get access to it, but it takes a little extra work. And you can't always get access to the high-rated stuff. Specialized and subject-specific content. Okay, so you can actually search in a library database for specialized content or subject-specific content. For instance, mind body medicine, we have several databases that are going to be great for you doing research in that area. Same with counseling. Google and Google Scholar is more broad searching. You're not going to get that level of specificity. So if you find an article with a title, you really have to kind of go into it and look to see what it's about. You know, a lot of things cross over different subject areas. You might not exactly get what you're looking for if you look up a search term. Advanced search capabilities is another thing we look at. And with a database, you can set all kinds of filters. You can set for the publication date. In your assignments and in your research, your professors are often going to give you, they're going to tell you that they don't want any information older than 5 years, maybe 7 years. So you can set your filters to look for just research, for instance, from 2020 on. You could do that a little bit in Google Scholar, but other kinds of search capabilities you don't have. You can search by methodology in our databases. You can search by geography. You can search by populations. So some of the psychology databases, for instance, you can actually search by like the teenage population or senior citizens or middle-aged or just different racial or ethnic groups. So you have a lot more capability of setting up your search. Full text access and interlibrary loan. We offer that through our databases. Google Scholar, sometimes you click on a link and you run into a paywall, and then you have to come back to the library anyway and look for it. The quality and the credibility of sources. Obviously, the library databases, with the amount of peer-reviewed content we have in there, and the amount of information you have about the author and about the backgrounds is going to help you have more quality and more credibility. And then legal and ethical considerations. That has more to do with copyright, fair use, things like that. But that's a little bit less of an important aspect for your consideration. That would be something more of interest to faculty, for instance. So I meant to stay here. So when you access our databases, you do have to sign in for anything that is subscription content. If you're ever prompted, you're going to use your Saybrook email and password. You can't if you use a Gmail account separately, it's not going to work. Our access is tied to your Saybrook email, so it would be good to get in the habit of using that for the library. You can go in through OneSearch. I briefly showed that yesterday. There's another thing too. So sometimes if you are looking from online and you end up at a database that we subscribe to, you will see something like this, what you see, this Elsevier here. You might have something where it says, find your organization, and it tells you to put your organization name in. If you ever see that, you're going to want to use one of these variations, TCS, TCS-ES, TCS Education System, the Community Solution. Because we're part of that consortium, sometimes you can type in Saybrook and it will find it like this, but a lot of times it's going to be TCS. So if you're ever not able to get into something, try TCS rather than Saybrook, because that's what all of our institutional subscriptions are under. Okay, let me. Okay, so then to access the databases, and I will show you this live, we do have an A to Z database list. That's our directory of all of our databases. I've also filtered it as a quick list. Once you get familiar with your program and you start knowing which databases you use, you might want to just go quickly to them instead of going to the huge A to Z database list, which has all kinds of descriptions with it. This is just a quick alphabetical list. You can also, when you're in OneSearch, you can filter by the type of database. If you want to stick to just ProQuest or just an EBSCOhost, you can do that too. I'll show you that in our demo. These are some popular databases at Saybrook. Just looking at our statistics usage, these just give you an idea of some of the names of some of the databases. So everything from like an Academic Search Ultimate, that's a multidisciplinary database. It's great because a lot of fields overlap, like medicine and psychology kind of overlap with each other. Mind-body medicine in particular, you're going to find that there's a lot of overlap between psychology concepts, spirituality, kind of religion concepts, healthcare and health and medical databases. So sometimes it's good to use an interdisciplinary database like Academic Search Ultimate. Another popular one, I mentioned it yesterday in the new student orientation, is ProQuest Dissertations and Theses. Global dissertations are a great way to keep up on things. NatMed Pro, it's listed in our listing as natural medicines. It's even great if you have an interest in health. I use it for myself. Sometimes I want to read about supplements or different brands. It's excellent information that is all evidence-based on, they do reviews on evidence-based medicine. They do systematic reviews to really good, because you could read a lot about supplements online or what you should do for, if you're using any kind of supplements in your own health. NatMed Pro backs it up with data. So it's a great database to look at for your research purposes and also for your own if you have an interest in that. But these are just some examples of some of our popular ones. We have students who use Canopy Streaming. It's a lot of content that's academic, but there's also very interesting documentaries in there that you might be interested in for your personal interest. Just, kind of timely current events, things like that, and history. So anyway, these are just some of the popular ones that we've noticed. I have this note up here that OneSearch is not a database itself. It's actually a tool. OneSearch looks through a lot of these databases to find articles. So it's kind of an aggregator. It's like a search engine for the databases. So I just want to make that important distinction between OneSearch and a database. So the database interfaces, we'll go in and look at a couple. They all look a little bit different, but as you start to use them, you'll notice that they kind of have the same types of things. They have fields where you enter keywords or search terms. They have, similar kind of filters like date and, just different kinds of things, methodology. Content can change over time in the databases. Most of the time it stays in the database, but sometimes there can be a change in content. So you may suddenly not find something a couple of years down the road, but we do our best to help you find wherever it went. Sometimes you'll see that it looks like we have something in a database, but it's telling that you can't access it. This is something called an embargo. The publisher sometimes, if something is really new, like let's say an article just got published in December of 2024, they might make you wait a month or 2 or 3 before you can access that. It's just something publishers do. They put a little hold on it. So sometimes, it could be just because of that. But most of the time you won't run into that. But if you do, it's possible that you might not be able to access something. You might have to wait a little bit. Some ways that you can use databases to search more effectively and more efficiently. One of them is identifying and combining proper keywords and subject terms. When you go to Google, you type something in and you get used to doing it as a sentence or a phrase. The best way to get at the heart of the content in the databases is to use keywords. You might put your research question down and then you extract the key terminology from your question or from the assignment, and you use those and you combine them. And typically you're going to be combining those with Boolean operators. You might see a search like, I don't know, memory loss and elderly, memory loss and early onset, or something like that. So when you put these terms together, like and will narrow your search. It'll look for 2 terms together. So you'll have all these terms and you'll have these terms, and it tries to put those together and filter it down. Or if you can use the word or to broaden a search. Sometimes you'll use this, like if you're looking for a population and it might go by different names, like teenagers or adolescents. So you're looking through the material, and some articles might reference teenagers, others might use the term adolescent. So in your search, you can do teenagers or adolescents. So it'll look for both of those terms to include. And then not will exclude a term. I don't use this one as much. Most of the time I'm using and. Second most I'm using or. Not is if you're trying to think of a good example of not, like if something has two meanings, like a word might have 2 meanings and you don't want the one, you can say, I can't even think of one off the top of my head right now. I should come up with one to remember, but not will keep a meaning out of your search. Use the thesaurus. So inside of our databases, many of them, not all, but many of them have what is called controlled vocabularies. So when people submit their articles to journals, they have professional indexers that read the articles and they tag or put subject terms associated with them. And so usually there's a controlled vocabulary. So, maybe if something is called mood disorder or I don't know, bad mood, it would be called mood disorder, or lack of control of emotions. So they tag it with a terminology. Meditation, that could mean a lot of things, but there's also like mindful meditation, which is a separate category. And so a thesaurus is more controlled. And what it does is, instead of just finding like the word mindfulness in an article and bringing it back as a result, it looks for something where the actual subject of the article is mindfulness. So it's just a more focused way of looking. And I'll show you what a thesaurus looks like when we get to the database. Use the filter options. I already mentioned that. Citation tracking. So one of the things, OneSearch is really good for this. It's not a database, but it tracks other articles related to it. When you go into a database article, you go to the reference list. You can go to the reference list and you can find all the citations that were used in that article, and you can go and click on those if they look of interest, and it will lead you to the next one. So you want to get in the habit of looking for related citations. And then sometimes I don't set the filters for full text. I mentioned this, that we have interlibrary loan where we can request materials from other libraries. If you just set full text, you might be cutting yourself off from other articles that you can get from other libraries. So I typically don't set for full text. If I need something in a hurry, or if I'm helping a student find something and they need it for an assignment, like due that day, I might set it for full text. But a lot of times I just don't set the filter for full text because I don't want to keep myself out of possibly requesting something through interlibrary loan. Okay. Evaluating our search results. Okay, so when you use the library to get your research articles, right away you have an advantage. As I mentioned, a lot of this content is in peer-reviewed articles, so you'll be able to meet certain requirements of the assignment. But there's also a good acronym here called the CRAP test. And you still, even if you are finding articles in a research database, you still want to apply these principles. Currency. So you might find a great article, but it's from 2005, and maybe the information has changed since then. That's particularly true, like in health articles. So much has changed over time with discoveries about health, or even psychology, or any subject really. So even if it's a great article, it might not be current, and so it might be inaccurate to today's standards. Relevance. Okay, it's a great article, but is it related to the question you're asking in your paper? So you have to make sure that it's important and it suits the information needs that you're trying to present. Authority. This is a good one. Now, you still have to remember that authority. Some of these studies are funded by corporations, for instance. Okay, so we kind of have to look, like, usually articles will list if they have a conflict of interest. If somebody's from from an industry, like they make high fructose corn syrup and they're advocating for high fructose corn syrup products. Okay, well, they have a conflict of interest, so you still have to check to make sure that if there's any issue with the person who did the study or who's making the point, you want to address that. Accuracy, you want to find out if, as best you can, if the information is reliable, truthful, and correctness. This could be tricky. How do we know if information is truthful or not? And then purpose. What's the reason that the information exists? So you want to be able to apply these. Even if you're finding a good article, you still have to say, hey, is this relevant to my paper? So I have a whole guide on this too. I'll point that out to you. When you evaluate your search results, so what happens is you start looking for all these articles, you start kind of finding things, but they're very long, involved articles. Sometimes you just need to stop and kind of save them, put them aside, and skim them. This is a good way. There's some people who recommend that you it's a quick way of quick reading an article. You just scan the title and scan the citation information to make sure it's all there. You kind of skim the article, like scroll through it, kind of see, is there, do I need an original study? Is there a methodology section? You kind of, read through it and make sure the various sections are there. You don't want to be, pulling opinion pieces in on a paper where you're trying to present factual research. I always read the abstract first, just to see. Most articles will have the abstract with them. It's just a quick paragraph. Well, it kind of gives you the big picture of the article. And then usually you read the abstract, then you read the introduction. It's often recommended that you jump all the way to the end, read the discussion and the conclusion to see that, did it find what you were looking for? Or is there a question, about it? Then you go back to the methods and you read the methodology, excuse me. And then you look at the results and the way they analyzed it. So what you do is you kind of skim through to make sure these parts are there. And if it's meeting your needs, But then you always should go back to the beginning and read critically the article from start to finish. One of the things that faculty have mentioned is that they often feel that the students just read the abstract or didn't read the whole article because they might be missing critical components of the article. So it is important to read it. Be selective about what you're choosing and then make sure you're reading the whole thing. It's okay at the beginning to kind of skim and jump around, but you do want to go back and read the whole thing. Managing your results. So there are several tools within our databases, and I've put some images up of what your options are once you find an article or something that you want to save. You really do have a lot of options for the way that you can save it. Some people just like to download it to their computer and put it in a file in a folder. But you have a lot of different options. You can print it, you can email it, you can export it to a citation management tool. You can create a permalink, which is a permanent link to the location in the database. So you can see these are just some, this is from EBSCO, the one here that says tools, the one with all these green circles. This is this is what ProQuest offers in their databases. This is from OneSearch. OneSearch allows you to do all these things. And then also, if you don't have it, you can get it from another library. You can use interlibrary loan and have the article sent to you. And then just lastly, some ethical considerations about using the databases. You want to avoid plagiarism. Some of these are in HTML format where you can copy and paste text into a document. We really want to be avoiding plagiarism. There's no integrity in that. You're not really learning. And Turnitin is a plagiarism checker that you can use here at Saybrook and that the faculty use. So you really want to be avoiding plagiarism, not only because it's wrong, and not only because you're not really learning if you're just plagiarizing. There's a negative consequence to it as well in terms of your schoolwork. Always properly cite what you're finding. If you do use something that came from a database like All Information, you want to make sure you're using the proper citation. These databases all have citation generators in them. The only thing is, like all AI, they do contain errors. So you do want to still check your citations for the proper style. So it gets you a long way there. Like when I was in graduate school and typing on a typewriter, if you made a mistake, you had to go back and you had to clean it up, and it was like, it was really hard. You had to do everything from scratch. You had to look at the reference and then type it out. This is really easy now, the way they make it in a copy style, but it's not an excuse for just leaving it the way it is because they do contain errors. They get you 90% of the way there, but they're not going to give you a perfect citation. So you always want to check against the APA style manual. And then just respecting copyright and fair use guidelines. These databases are subscription based, and so they're part of your tuition dollars is paying for the access to them. They're for your personal educational use. You don't want to be sharing and posting articles with people who do not have access to them. So it's just a respect for copyright and fair use. So that's the end of the PowerPoint that I have. I'm sending you this PowerPoint, so I do have some information on here about getting help. We do have two research guides. One is called Library Databases, and the other one is Evaluating Information Resources. So you can refer to those. So I will send this to you. But for now, what I want to do is stop, and I'm going to ask you if you have any questions so far, or if you want me to clarify anything. Otherwise, we can jump into, I'll just show you around in the library. We'll take a look at some databases and show you some searching.
I do have some questions.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was just looking up some books in the library yesterday, from the book list that was posted for our first courses. And I was able to find them. But then it does show a print option, but I was just curious, like it gives you it asks you if you want to download the book, but then it doesn't, I don't know. Yeah, I was a little
There's,
confused about if you can print things, if you can because I have a printer, but I'm not sure if you're allowed to print
yeah,
because it's a library. So
yeah,
yeah.
so the publisher set limits. In some cases, they don't allow downloads. In some cases, they allow a certain number of pages. So if it's a 300 page book, they might give you a maximum download limit. So you want to be specific about which pages. You don't want to start at the first page and get all the title information, everything. You want to actually
Right.
download the content. So it just depends on the book. And that's really kind of up to when we purchase those books from our vendor,
Hmm.
they come with those stipulations. I mean, we could look at an example if you want. Sometimes you can just save it as a PDF to your computer, but they're all a little bit different. So it's hard to say. But some of them you can download, you can print them out and it'll let you, but some of them do have limits.
Okay.
And sometimes if you can't, we try to encourage faculty to make their selections from library materials, so it's fewer things that you have to buy. Unfortunately, not all the like textbook publishers are in it to make money. They're in the business to sell books and make money. So they don't make everything available for institutional licensing. Like sometimes we try to buy books for the library, but they're considered
Hmm.
textbooks and they won't let us purchase them to make available.
Oh,
So
okay.
sometimes you might have to buy books just because whatever is needed for that course, we were unable, we try when we can to purchase what we
Mhm.
can for the library, but we can't always purchase everything.
So,
So
so that means, like, for example, there's the book called The Professional Counselor's Desk Reference. It's really expensive, like $100. So I was thinking maybe I want, because I ordered three books already. And then there's two, one where it said, in the reference list, it said, this is available through our library at no cost. So I thought, okay, maybe I don't need to buy that one.
was there
But
a
then
link provided with it? We try to encourage the professors to
there is.
provide the link to the book.
Yeah, there was links
So
in there.
you shouldn't have to purchase it if it's coming from if it's in your syllabus. Um, Sometimes it's good to check with us first because especially if there's an adjunct faculty member and they might not realize that we can get the book and maybe they specified it without checking with us first. We've had this come up where a student will say, I don't have this, you know, I don't want to buy this book. Do we have it? And we go into the course and we look and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, we could probably get this book if it's a required book in a course, we can probably buy it. We always try
Yeah,
when we're aware, but there's so many courses, they sometimes forget to come to the library and ask us if we can get a book. So it's always good to check with us first.
right.
Um, and if we
Um,
purchase it, it's usually made available within 24 to 48 hours, it can become accessible in the library.
but then you have to read it like this. Like, can I show you? Wait one sec.
Yeah, if you want to share your screen, you can. Otherwise, yeah.
Wait, how do I do that? I have no
You
idea.
should be able to, in your Zoom, you should be able
Oh,
to hit the share button.
wait, I'm trying to, because I'm on my phone right now.
Oh,
I
well,
wonder if I can just, because you can
well,
see me. Like, wait, look, like that.
yeah,
Can you see that?
that's in ProQuest eBook Central database. That's called
Yeah.
ProQuest eBook Central.
Okay.
And there should be options in there for printing or downloading. Um, why don't I go into, I don't want to get too far off track I want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure we get some time to go into the databases and show you around. And I can always follow up with you after like at the end when I want to make sure that we have some time to go in take a look. And we can even go
Okay.
into the ebook database and take a look there as an example.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, but
so,
this is not the way you would read the book you're borrowing.
well, you do, I mean, it is an online book, so
Right.
you read online, yeah. I mean,
In this format, kind of.
yeah, there might be different views that you can use if you want to expand it to your full screen. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I have a larger monitor, so it's sometimes it's easier for me to read an online book like that. I know some students, if you're using a small screen, it could be a little more challenging.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but yeah, I mean that's how the ebooks are. I mean, they are on a computer screen. So being a virtual library, that's what we do. But you do have, and again, if you can download and print pages if you want to do so. But again, there might be limits on that from the
Right, yeah.
publisher. It all just
Yeah.
depends.
Yeah, I wonder if that's even worth it if you have to read a whole book or chapters, then what's the point in downloading a few pages? You might as well get the whole book, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a personal decision, I suppose. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. Um, let's see. You should, are you seeing the library homepage?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. What was okay, so I'll do that in a moment, but I just want to hang on a second. I'm just moving some things. I work on two monitors here, so I have to move some things around. Okay, so library homepage. So here is where the list of all of our databases are. Now, if I'm using OneSearch here, I can search, this will get me to database content. But again, this is OneSearch. It's just looking in a bunch of databases at the same time. So what is the name of that book again? I'm going to filter to the book and I'm going to look that book up. So that is ProQuest ebook. That's a book database. So I'm going to click on books. And what's the name of it?
Oh, you mean the one I was just looking up?
Yeah.
It's called the Professional Counselor's Desk Reference. Springer Publishing Company.
Okay. And first thing I do after I look is I always sign in because now I can get to the content. Okay. So the profession. Okay. So here it is. It's a Credo reference.
Oh,
Is it
yes.
2015 or 2016? These are two different
Oh, I don't
ones.
know. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, it's the same one. It's the same editor. This might be a
Yeah.
chapter within. Okay, I'm going to pick this one. So, okay, so this book is found in these. So when you're looking in, when you're using OneSearch, it'll tell you which databases the book is in, where you see this view online, where the full text. So this is our eBook Central database, and this is our EBSCO host. If you're given a choice, I would probably opt for the eBook Central. It's connected better. It's just an easier way to read the books. So I can come here and I can get to it right from here. If I just click that link, it should be transferring me to the book. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. We have unlimited access to this book. Sometimes you'll see something where we have 1 copy or 3 copy. That means that only 3 people at a time can access it at once. Here you've got 74 pages. So they've put a limit on this book. You can download 74 pages at a time from this book. Okay, so that's why you'd have to kind of be decisive about what you want to you can get up to 74 pages and it doesn't expire, so you want to be choosy. If your instructor has references from the entire book, you're probably going to have to read most of it online, but this looks to be a reference manual. So it's probably going to
Mhm.
be, you're probably going to come here and use it as a reference, not like, you're looking things up. So here, case management. Okay, so here's professional practice. And here I'm just going to look at the subsections. So when you come in, because this is more of like a reference type book, it's probably why they have a limit on it. They don't want you downloading an entire reference book. For one thing, it's large. For another thing, a reference book is usually designed to come back and forth to and look things up to your needs. So it's really more of, it's not like it's just the nature of a reference book is going to be different from another kind of a textbook or another kind of nonfiction type book where you would, cover a bunch of topics. This is more of a reference manual. Um, but yeah, so it means that you can only do, you're limited on the pages. Not all books are like this, though. I mean, it just depends. While we're here, just to talk a little bit about this as a database, if you ever want to, I remember we talked about citation. I'm just going to click the cite here in case you were trying to cite this book. So this defaults to MLA style. We use only APA at Saybrook, so you would pick your APA style and it'll put it in here. You can export this to RefWorks or to EndNote, or you can just copy this and put it into your document. So if I just highlight the whole thing, Control C, and then I go and I paste it somewhere else. Now I have, but what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're taking a look at that and that you're actually, sometimes what happens in these citations, like with APA, a title always uses underscore in the title, unless it's a proper name. So this, in this case, this is correct. The way they reference this is correct, but sometimes you'll see that it's not correct. Sometimes you'll see a reference where everything's in capital letters. That is not correct. So it's those kinds of things. It's usually that formatting. You want to make sure if you're copying and pasting a citation like this, you're going to want to make sure that you are, clarifying that and making sure it's accurate. I can also export my citation. I happen to have a RefWorks account. I can export it. I'm just going to send it. We just had some, now I have it set up so I automatically sign into my RefWorks so it's right here. So I can import that citation right here into my RefWorks account. Okay, and then I'll import it. Okay, so let's go see what it is. Okay, so here it is, the professional counselor's desk reference. So now I have that in my RefWorks account. I can come back to it here anytime when I'm in my RefWorks. And it'll show you all the different, articles that you saved from RefWorks.
Wait, so you can get back to the book? You have access back, you can click on it and you
Yeah,
get
it's
to
right.
the
Yeah.
content?
Yeah, you can save it in your RefWorks and you can get to it from here. And then you can, when you save to RefWorks, you can generate a bibliography from what's in your, I would recommend there's a citation manager. Kirsten Klinghammer is hosting a session on citation managers this afternoon. If you're interested, she takes you through RefWorks and all of this. So it might be a good thing. But we're
So I
running
have
out of, I'm keeping an eye on the time as well. I just want to show you a couple of other databases. Just so I want to show you how to get to some of the databases from here and just show you, get you a little bit introduced. I do want to say, because we are running up on time a little bit, I want to point out where those guides are. Like right here's, this one's on library databases. So it tells you all about library databases, the difference between OneSearch, how to choose a database, ProQuest, EBSCO, some of the other vendors that we have. So that's one guide that you can look at. And the other one is that evaluating information resources, where we talked about the CRAP test, how to evaluate what you're reading. So that's another one. So I would definitely come to these. And I think I have some, I have for psychology, I have a recorded session about using the library databases. I also have an effective search technique, a little brief view there. But let's just quick go to the databases. I want to show you a couple of things about them. Remember, this is our A to Z database list, and you can search by the name of the database, or you can search by the subject area. So if you're in mind body medicine, for instance, you might want to come into some of the medical databases. Let's see what we have for those. Cochrane Library, Coronavirus Database, Osteopathic Medical Collection, PubMed. PubMed is very popular. Here's Academic Search Ultimate. This is that multidisciplinary one I told you about. I'd like to show you that real quick, just to show you the different ways you can search within a database. So I'm just going to pick Academic Search Ultimate to search in. So it's opening up the database right now. Oh, this is not, you won't have this problem. I have an issue with EBSCO. It drives me crazy. Sorry about that. I have my own particular problem going on with, I shouldn't have picked that. Or I should pick it from another browser. There's something about my Google Chrome and my EBSCO. I keep trying to clear cookies and things, and I can't seem to get it to work. I've been working with systems to try to recover it. So I usually, if I'm trying to get into EBSCO, but you're not going to have that problem. It's just, it's unique to my my computer. I'll try this one. This isn't another, let's see, where is it? ProQuest. Oh, it's not here. We'll go into Medline. Let's go to Medline. Medline's a good one. So, oh, I forgot, it's an EBSCO. I'm really sorry. Hang on, let me pick a non-EBSCO database, because I'm gonna pick ProQuest 1. Here we go. Multidisciplinary research. Okay, let's go into that. Okay, and so this is what a typical database is going to look like. You're going to have your search bar. This defaults to an advanced search. Okay, so this is where you can put in your keywords or your subject terms. So let's say I'm interested in chronic pain, and I'm also interested in maybe some meditation or mindfulness techniques for treating it. Okay, so I can just take that as a search. This is a simple keyword search, putting two things together. And look how many results I have. I've got almost 65,000 results. That is a lot of results. That is very overwhelming to get through all that, because these are very, very broad terms. So maybe I want to modify this search. And you remember that I talked about subject terms as opposed to just keywords. There's a number of ways I can limit this search. I can maybe look up the subject terms associated with this article and search them as subject terms. So if I come here to my, let's see if this is let's see if that'll come up with any. Okay, so chronic pain is a subject term. Okay, let's try mindfulness. Is that okay, so these are both subject terms. Okay, so let me do that this way. I'm going to search chronic pain as a subject term. You see here, a subject, and I'm going to put in mindfulness. And it doesn't matter if you do all your words on one row or you separate them out into different rows. I'm adding them on different rows because I want to specify each of them as a subject term. And now I'm going to try the search and see if it narrows me down any further. Okay, so all of a sudden, look at, rather than just picking up the words chronic and pain and mindfulness in any study, it's actually looking at these as chronic pain articles and mindfulness articles, and it's looking at them together. So here's like a typical study: effectiveness of non-pharmacological therapies for chronic pain with people in autoimmune disease. Okay, and this is a systematic review. Mind Your Pain, a single-arm feasibility study to assess a smartphone-based, okay, so and on and on. And you can see how descriptive these articles are. But so that would be a good way to narrow down your results, is to try to use those subject terms. If I want to, let's sit here, let's clear the form, and let's try that first search that we had, chronic pain and mindfulness, and get our 65,000 results. So there are other ways that we can narrow this down, okay? So one thing I can do is, you can see I have a variety of different types of sources here. I've got scholarly journals, books, audio, visual, just dissertations. Maybe I just want to look for the scholarly journals. In fact, maybe I just want peer-reviewed articles. So let me click that. It's gotten me from 65 down to 15,000 because it cut out all the books, cut out all the videos, cut out all the dissertations, anything that wasn't a peer-reviewed article. So that's another way you can filter down your results. I also am seeing here that my results are spanning all the way back to 1992. I don't want results that far back. I'm going to move my results up to, let's try 2010 to 2029. Some of these are pre-public. It really should be 2025, but that might be a typo in, it probably means 2019. There was probably an article that had an error in it. But even just bringing my results to the last how many years, you can enter your date range. Let's say 2021, update that. Okay, now I'm down to 7,000. So then there are further ways you can go about, using those filters. You can look for, some allow you to look for a location. Some are a database. Here are subject areas, a document type. Maybe you just want evidence-based healthcare articles. So use the filters. There's different ways. You can cast a broad net and then kind of bring your results down by adding filters. Some people set up their searches and put all their filters in right away. I like to capture everything and then come down from there. So what you'll start doing is you'll start to look and go, okay, this looks like it might be interesting for me. Here's one, oxytocin modulation in mindfulness. Okay, let's say you want to take a look at that article. You simply click on the article. And this is where you can start right away. I can read the abstract here to find out what this article is about. This is going to tell me a lot whether this is going to be something I want to see. Do I really want this article? I can read further about it by scrolling down. Okay, here's the full text of the article. I can also download the PDF of the article or save it that way. What I can also do, I like to often go to the abstract and the details here. And I like to look at the other subject terms associated with the article. This will give me more ideas for searching. These are your key topics. It'll give you different kinds of subject terms. Sometimes when you're trying to find more words to look for articles on, you can use this. You have information about the authors of the article if you want to check to see, are they coming from an educational institution, a think tank? Are they coming from a corporation, whatever? So this gives you more information, and it gives you all in APA referencing, you do need a DOI. So it gives you your DOI. That's a digital object identifier. It's kind of like the home address of an article. So it gives you a lot of information. Remember, I said also check the references. So you can click on the references here. And now you can start to go through and see if there are other references related to this. And you can look for the full text of that. So there's a lot you can do. This gives you a lot of information. In addition to just finding the article itself, you can get a lot of related information. And as you can see with ProQuest, they're starting to put in more kind of AI type features. They give you over here key takeaways for the article. So it gives you a little bit of a summary. It gives you it suggests some similar sources based on what is contained in the article. It'll suggest some other articles for you. Here are some indexing terms that were applied. So this is really helpful. Once you find some articles close to what you want, it'll give you additional information. So you can see that these are very powerful. And again, remember I showed you in the PowerPoint ways that you can save this article. I can download the PDF to my computer. I can cite it. I can email it to myself. I can print it. Here's that citation again. Let's see if it gives us, looks pretty good. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. That seems to follow it's got the capitalization right. Although this is APA 6, that's older. We use APA 7th. So not much difference between them. There's very small differences, but you could then copy that citation and put it into your paper. So you can copy the link to this article. So there's lots of different things you can do with it. I know we're at our time here, and I'm sure that you have a lot of other sessions you're trying to attend. I know there are some other sessions right after this. Do you have any questions right now while we're in this database before you leave?
I've got 4 questions, but
Okay.
I think eventually they'll be sorted because I'm going to go to the next meeting. And the main one was sometimes the newspaper articles, Dr. So-and-so might say something. Do you act and you want to follow that to find out where, he wrote it and do you search newspaper articles? That's just a quick
You
one.
can, so what I would suggest for that, since I would suggest using OneSearch and searching the title of the article. Do you have an example of an article? Um,
Oh, Dr. James Hollis. And
okay, so
uh,
if you know a title, no, that's the
oh yeah,
best way
not the
is
title.
to,
This would be, that I said I read it in say New York Times or one of those
okay.
papers. I'm just using this as an example.
Yeah, I'll just pull that up and see if I get any hits for that. Um, okay, so looks like I'm not getting any hits from that
Yeah.
specifically. I can come in and see.
I'll
Yeah,
just
he's not
type out
showing up. I might have to do an advanced search, an author search. But what
right.
I would suggest if you find the best thing is to put in like a title in quotation marks, like, whatever the title of the article is. Let's just, for instance, if you knew that this was the name of an article, put it
Uh,
in, and then, well, it should have found, I don't know what I did wrong here because something, let me see what I have.
like the other one is like he did a
Oh,
podcast with Huberman, Dr. Huberman.
oh, Dr. Huberman.
Yeah. And so if you've heard the podcast and you think, oh my God, where is it? And is there any uh, references or citations out of that? Because the two of them, of course, have published a lot. And so sometimes it's just,
Yeah,
I heard
you
that.
might you might look up you might do an author search. You might come in and do you might do you can do an advanced search. Here, let me move this out of the way. If you came in here and did an advanced search, and you could put in and you can specify an author name. What's his first name?
It's and is it Andrew? I think it's something like that.
That sounds
Try it.
familiar. Sometimes it's usually by first initial, but even if, let's see if we have any articles by Huberman. Okay, A.M. Huberman. There might be, it's probably a common name.
Yeah, it looks like
Let's
it.
see if it was,
Yeah.
The other thing I would recommend for podcasts is going online and looking and just podcasts are going to be found online. If they're referencing something in a podcast, sometimes when you look at the podcast directory, might have references in
Yes,
there.
that's true. They
Um,
also have the text.
yeah, and sometimes, what's good for that are some of the AI generators.
Yeah.
So, I know it sounds horrible, but they do work. Like they can find things. You can say like article in Andrew Huberman podcast titled such and such. What are the article citations from that?
Right.
Because sometimes if you don't know, like you could do author search, you could do subject search, you could do things like that. And if then you can hopefully find it in here, but it just depends
Yeah.
on what
Sometimes
it is.
you're sort of starting from that point. The other quick question, then I'm going to
Mhm.
probably go over to this other one, is you mentioned something about Chrome, having